My name is Marianne Nicolson. My Kwakwa name is Tayagila'ogwa. I'm from the Dzwada and the Quicksut and the Kwakwa of the Kwakwa nations. I'm a visual artist. I'm also like a researcher and I would say an Indigenous activist.
To kind of even resisting this kind of grand narrative of Canadiana, which has like this idea, this notion that first of all that the country was empty when colonial nations arrived, so that could be kind of accessed and taken without dealing with the land issue. So fundamentally, it's always coming back to the land issue, always coming back to the land issue, always coming back to the land issue. But in order to substantiate and understand that land issue in its completeness, I mean, we as Indigenous nations really need to remember and hold on to that memory of our original understanding, both of the relationship between colonial peoples and ourselves, but also our own understanding and our own stories of our lands. And that's reiterated over and over and over. Kind of different people have said that. So really, this notion of awakening memory is right up my alley in terms of the thoughts and engagements.
So currently, what we have taking place today is that we have an imposed governance system. The Department of Indian Affairs has imposed a governance system, and that's being executed through the elected band council system and organizations like Nunwakalis Cultural Society. And those organizations are operating from the foundations of a Western colonial way of approaching the land and understanding the land. And I guess from more of a traditionalist understanding, those ways of kind of managing the land as a resource is antithetical to our traditional way of understanding the land as a living thing within which we have the opportunity to engage with and have stewardship over, but certainly we do not look to sell or kind of commercialize, commodify.
Well, it's what gets tough. It's kind of like what we're facing here. It's tough when the information that was valuable to us internally wasn't what was valued by the people who were selling or collecting these objects. So a lot of them we need to connect them back to their original owners and the people who had the rights to show them, right? Whereas a lot of the objects in the museums were collected and that documentation was not taken because within that museum framework they were really more interested in the aesthetic of the object. Whereas now we're trying to re-engage with kind of ownership and identity. So like in this case it's far more powerful to know like the history of this piece and who owned it and why they owned it and what that represented than if you only saw it as an aesthetic object, right?
And I've found that it's a very important political imperative that understanding kind of re-emerges within the consciousness of the people who live on the coast, and certainly that there was an attempt to erase that understanding. And so in creating these images, it's acting like a memory device or a way of reasserting that way of knowing, because it's never gone away, it's always been there. But there certainly have been very kind of oppressive attempts, such as through the residential school, to erase that memory. So in a way it's an act of resistance, but it's also an act of assertion. The work done here at Open Space refers to an engagement with the land, kind of a writing on the land, and it's primarily kind of formally executed through pictographs. And if you think of it, like in order to create pictographs, the physical body actually has to engage with the land, right? It's actually marking the land. So within our territory, there's tons and tons and tons of pictographs. And in fact, there's tons of pictographs all over the coast. and they're all signs of Indigenous occupancy of that landscape and use of that landscape. So this work here refers to that. So it's pictographic in its aesthetic, and it's done kind of in the form of a long, kind of almost like you would imagine like a stone-like surface upon which these images are applied. And the images refer to origin stories. So the occupation of the land was done by the peoples thousands and thousands of years ago by Aboriginal ancestors. And there are beautiful stories that relate how that came to be, along with the painted work, which is kind of a landscape in its orientation. It's horizontal, it's very long, is a video work which kind of tangibly connects through sound and images the specific landscape from which I come from and which these images refer to. So it is a way of kind of an act of memory, and it's more poetic in its execution. It's not so much literal, but the sounds and the sights that are shown in this video are actual sights and sounds from the land, from my own territories.